All right, this video is going to be all about the find menu in Computer Cuisine Deluxe. I often find I get quite a few questions where people will say, does your program create separate cookbooks or something like that? And it's hard to explain, but no, it doesn't necessarily create separate cookbooks, but that's because you don't need them. And that's all taking place because of the find menu. So within your entire database, and you can see right here there's 1001 recipes in this particular database, you have various search criteria that you can use to separate them out and sort of create what some people commonly call a cookbook. So for example, I'm just going to do a recipe name and or ingredient. And so let's say you wanted to do a search for every recipe that has chocolate in the name. So I'm going to type chocolate, and then I'm going to hit enter. So as you can see right now, it says recipes found, and there's 12. So if we go back to the main menu on any of these, let's just punch up, I don't know, chocolate mousse cake. We go chocolate mousse cake, and we have a nice picture of chocolate mousse cake. You're going to see that now it says recipe 5 of 12. Now I can see where some people might say, hey, what happened? Uh-oh, did it delete my recipes? Where's the 1001 recipes? No, you're fine. What this means is that these are the current recipes that are found. So that is that sort of separate cookbook mentality that I was referring to earlier. So now when we go to the list, instead of listing all 1000 recipes, we are listing them based on that search criteria that we entered before. If we go back to the main menu and we said, hey, I want to go back to my full 1000 recipes, all you have to do is click the show all feature. Now we're back, and now this is recipe 193 of 1001. Our special search for chocolate recipes is now essentially gone. If we go back to the list menu, we have the full list of all of our recipes. So that is how you can sort of separate out certain recipes for what you need for a certain task. So let's go to, for example, you can do a find for just my recipes that you've entered, or just my favorites, or a rating, a recipe that I've rated as very good. Obviously, all of this is pretty straightforward, but the reason I'm highlighting some of these is because if you wanted to find a recipe, for example, of all the recipes given to you by a certain friend, well, if you keep that in mind, let me go back here for a second. Sorry, I'm going to cancel this out. If you keep this in mind, that the find feature helps isolate certain recipes. What that means is, let's say in your recipes notes for a certain recipe, I'm just going to type the word, let's say, from grandma. Okay, let's say from grandma. Okay, so the more information and the more unique information you enter in each recipe really will help you later on use that as a find to isolate those particular recipes. So if you enter in every time there's a recipe from your grandma and you enter those in, that allows you to then do a search for the recipe notes. And once you just do a search for recipe notes for the word grandma and hit enter, we have just that chocolate mousse cake. But for example, that could have been 25 of them. Now I'm going to just go ahead and show all. I should probably delete the from grandma example, but I'm going to go back to what I originally started out with, and this is for chocolate recipes, okay? But the reason I might do this is, let's say I wanted to print out every recipe that had chocolate in its name, okay? Well, we're going to go ahead, and now we have all of these recipes that are listed. So we have 12 recipes that have chocolate in the name, not just ingredients. Well, all we have to do is, if we want to print all of these, we can go through and just check off the ones that we want to print. You can manually do that for each one, or there's different tools where you can say, check all of them in the list to print. So I'm going to go ahead and check all of them. Now they're all listed. We can say, you know what, I don't want to check any of those. Go back to the tools. We can go uncheck those. And so now we've unchecked all, and we're back to our main list. So that sort of resets everything. So the beauty of the find tool is that it allows you to isolate particular groups of recipes within your main catalog. So you don't need to have separate catalogs, because the find menu is so detailed in what it can isolate. Hope that sort of makes sense. But once you can even do a search for every recipe that has a photo included. So I'm just going to do that. So all of these recipes have a custom photo included, and you can just scroll through them with the forward and backwards. So you can see that these are all custom photos. That sort of thing helps if you wanted to print out all of the recipes that had your own photos that you've added. And that sort of thing. So again, you just go back to the list, and they all have the photo icon, and then you can just select either print all of them or check off manually each one you want to print and then send them all to print. So that covers the basics of the find menu, but it's a very detailed tool which makes separate cookbooks unnecessary completely, because you have isolation that you can do with each particular ingredient, method, recipe, style, search for all the Chinese recipes, let's say, and now we have just the Chinese recipes and so on. So it really creates that 100 recipe cookbook. Let's say you wanted to print out a Chinese cookbook of all your recipes. Here you go. You just select all to print, and you can create those separate cookbooks. So that is the find menu in a nutshell. Thanks.